Hello and welcome to the Keto Mans Club Podcast.
We're glad you're here, where each week we talk about men's health and lifestyle.
We do so with the foundation of the ketogenic diet and lifestyle.
If you don't know what keto is, stick around and you'll find out.
The podcast will bring you real, honest fun.
Each week we strive to uncover the tips and tricks that you can use in your everyday life to maximize your overall health.
Find the clearest path to becoming the best version of yourself that you were meant to be.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Keto Mans Club Podcast. Actually, not another. This is the very first, the inaugural Keto Mans Podcast, and we're excited that you are listening. My name is Chris Duckett, and I'm going to be one of your hosts. I've got a couple other great guys here that I want to introduce you to. Number one, I want to introduce Jim Inman. He's a great guy. He's one of the admins. Well, actually, both these guys are the admins over at the Keto Mans Club Facebook group. And we all kind of met there. So Jim Inman, say hi.
Hello, Chris. Nice to chat with you.
Absolutely. And on the other side of me, virtually across the internet, we have Alberto Casillas.
What's going on?
You had that dramatic pause. I think that's what's going to make this show so much better from here on out. That dramatic pause before you start into the conversation. Glad to have you guys on. This is awesome.
Yeah. Okay. You as the listeners will have heard our intro, which has a little bit about us, but we want to talk a little bit more about that in this first episode. We want to make sure that you know what we're about, why we're here, what we're trying to do with this crazy recording thing. So let me talk a little bit more about myself, give you a little bit more information about who I am. We're going to go deep into all three of us at some point in the future. I'm originally from Kansas City, but I currently reside in a town just outside of Austin, Texas, and I do tech support as well as podcast editing and post-production. Actually, technically have the company name Duckett Production Services. So if you ever are in the market for podcast services, please hit me up. I've been ketogenic for just about 2 years now, and I started out about 280 pounds, at least the last recorded number. Since then, I have lost at most about 60 pounds. I'm up a little bit right now, and we'll talk more about that at some point in the future, but plan to get right back down to that and even lower weight. But I will say that regardless of my weight, I'm in the best health of my life, and that is the most important thing to me. Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am in Bloomington, Indiana. So I'm about 50 miles south of Indianapolis. I work in community service. I work for our local Chamber of Commerce. I've been doing that for 3 years now. I have been doing local radio in Southern Indiana for about 15 years. As the joke goes, I was blessed with a face for radio. I have taken full advantage of that. I've hosted a weekly program in Bloomington, Indiana called the Bloomington Review. I have lived in Bloomington my whole life, been involved in a number of activities over the years. Started the Keto Mans Club back in April 2017 with the idea of trying to get like-minded guys together in the same virtual room, so to speak. And again, we'll probably talk about that a little bit more later on in the program. Family history of heart illness, and so a combination of factors have kind of put me in that spot and in the right place at the right time, and formed the group, which has evolved over a 3 years now. And as our listeners are going to learn throughout every show, there's a lot of good stuff that has come out of this interaction on Facebook, and we're excited to take it to the next chapter. So looking forward to sharing stories and things like that in the coming podcast.
Awesome. Alberto, tell us a little bit about yourself.
How's it going? Alberto Casillas, third year ketogenic. It's been an experience, that's for sure. My entire career and background is all automotive paint related. My very first job was at a car wash, and my most recent job is training automotive painters on pretty much how to make more money. Currently live in Austin myself, bounced around all over the place. This is the 4th state I've lived in, and this will be the final state I live in. Got into keto, ironically enough, through a random work encounter while training an automotive painter. and just kind of decided, you know what, let's give this thing an 8-week shot. Cross it off the list. It's not going to work anyways. As I stated, that was over 2 years ago, and in the process of those 2 years, it has fixed all of my metabolic issues, all of my intestinal issues that stem from ulcerative colitis. Also currently in the best health of my life and proving all my doctors wrong when they said I'd be on medication forever. So I just like to stick it to them every once in a while.
What's that counter up to?
The counter, last I checked, I'll double check it right now, but we are in the 320s. 333 days, 11 hours, 34 minutes, and 24, 25, 26 seconds since I last took any of the medication I was told I would be on for life.
That's
Woohoo!
pretty phenomenal.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah, that one's real cool. It's just, you're pretty much trained to say, this is how it's going to be. You're always going to be miserable. Back aches are normal. Joint aches are normal. Your knees are always going to hurt. Yeah, you're in great shape. Never mind the fact that you can't stop gaining weight. That was fine according to them, and I've always refused to believe it. And I always thought to myself, it can't be this hard. Like, life can't be this hard. How do people do this? And sure enough, man, you come across something that clicks with your body and eliminate a bunch of bad foods, and everything just seems to turn around in short order. Don't get me wrong, it's nothing short of miraculous, and I'm thankful every single day for it.
Absolutely. We'll dig more into all of that, what some of your doctors have said, things like that in future episodes probably. Jim, let's dive a little bit deeper into how all of this got started, Facebook group, kind of, you touched on some of it, but let's dive deep into all that.
Sure. So, like I mentioned, the group started back officially and formally, in April 2017. So, about sometime in 2015, early 2016, it was one of those standard things that most all people in that early middle age range face, where the job stress and life and family and everything kind of builds up. And I was working at the time in my office and had a work situation arise that completely caught me off guard, and literally thought I was having a heart attack. The chest pain and tightness and all kinds of things. And I told a coworker semi-jokingly, I'm going to go in my office, lay down for a few minutes, and if I'm not back in 10 minutes, call the ambulance. And she said, well, we're going to give you 3 minutes instead. We won't give you the full 10. Ended up being, though, not a heart attack, but an anxiety attack. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, family issues with heart disease. My father passed away at age 55 from congestive heart failure. So at that time of getting ready to turn 39, 40 years old, reached out to a family physician and got a cardiology referral, everything checked out, but you need to lose weight kind of thing. So started doing some digging. I'd done different things over the years. I'd done a couple different intense fitness boot camps where you were doing powders and fake bread, Ezekiel bread, and all kinds of things. And they would work, and I would drop 30, 40 pounds and be in really good shape and everything. But then as soon as you came off of that and wanted to try and live a normal life, so to speak, it wasn't working. I would gain right back, and kind of that yo-yo aspect, as most people do anymore. Got onto Facebook and Google and searched around and everything, and looked for ideas and discovered this keto plan. And, basically it kind of initially started off with, hey, you eat a lot of bacon, you eat a lot of eggs, a variety of things like, oh, well, this sounds pretty decent. Started searching around, and Facebook has become that social club and all of these different groups and everything. Well, I joined a couple different ketogenic groups on there and learned some of the basics and so on. But as I learned more about the process and learned what was involved in it, I realized that I was seeing the repetitive questions, the beginner stuff, so to speak, in those keto groups. And that's great. I totally encourage anybody that's wanting to learn about this way of eating, or WOE as the acronym is that you'll often see online. There's a place for that. But I was looking for a place that was at like the 200 or even 300 level where, okay, you're in it, you know what you're doing kind of thing. You don't need the basics questions answered anymore, but more of the fine tuning and whatnot. So I had talked with a guy named Nick in one of those groups and said, hey, I'm going to form this group for guys and just see how it goes. And you're going to be my first friend in the group. And so started that and kind of finagled some comments in here and there in different keto groups about, hey, congratulations on your success. If you're interested, come check out the Keto Mans Club. And, some groups were cool with that. Oh, yeah. And, the tag and everything. So sometimes it worked really well. Other groups were like, you're a jerk. You don't talk about your group in our group kind of thing. That's fine. Whatever. Because we have a podcast now and they don't. So I'm kind of cool with that idea. It's grown, like I said, 2+ years now to a few thousand guys in this group. And the thing that has really impressed me the most about all of this is that the attitudes towards one another are very friendly, very encouraging. There's good natured ribbing and everything. But by the same token, there are men in these groups who are sharing a lot of the personal struggles that they have dealt with over the years that have put them in a position where they need to lose weight. There's been some kind of trauma in their past. They are feeling like they're stuck in their work or their personal life. Everybody's got a story, and everybody has something that has put them in a place where they feel like they've got to find an option, find a new way of doing things to get out of that rut. Keto Mans Club has definitely that overlying theme of the way of eating and weight loss and overall health and such. But we've also found that the members of the group can support each other through illness and loss and job challenges and things like that. So what it has become is this true band of brothers. And it's just been an exciting way to witness guys not only be successful physically, but also getting successful emotionally, spiritually, everything all in there kind of thing. And I'm not a psychologist. I've never claimed to be. I just think I've got a pretty good ear and a pretty good heart. And like you guys who help with the group and the other admins and moderators, we've just seen it flourish. And it's been an awesome experience that when you think about social media and 12-year-old girls taking selfie photos with duck faces and everything, that's not what our group is about. Our group is about how to make the best freaking barbecue in the Instant Pot or on the barbecue or whatever the case may be. And it's great. I mean, it's absolutely been phenomenal.
Amen. It really is one of the groups that if I was to cut out of all of the groups that, trying to cut back on my social media, unfriend people, just try to clear the space, I would not be able to clear off the Keto Mans Club from my Facebook. That's not something I would be personally willing to do because it's too tight knit of group. It means too much to me. The feedback, the friendships, both virtual and real. Alberto had me over to his house, had a few of us over to his house for a barbecue not too long ago. Had a hawk that ate a mouse. It was sweet.
100% carnivore.
100% carnivore. I ate a steak with my hands. It was great. But we are real guys in a real group, and I think if nothing else, that's what I want our podcast to support from my aspect of things. That's what I'm drawn to with this is I want us to find one more avenue to be able to bring that realness, a place for men to be able to be real with each other, to be a band of brothers. I don't have a military background. I would not make it in the military, but that is, out of all the aspects that I have seen in those who have been in the military, that is the aspect that I kind of wish I might have had I gone that path. And so I kind of have that now, and it's really cool. And I'm glad to have it, and I'm glad to have you guys.
And I want to add one thing really quick, Chris. There's nothing against the wonderful women in the world at all. This group, like I said, though, was designed for a niche, so to speak, for the guys who are focused on this way of eating. So it is truly the Keto Mans Club. We haven't had any ladies in there, anything like that. We love
They've
you all.
tried.
Yes, they do. There is nothing meant to be rude or obnoxious or anything towards the ladies out there who are doing this way of eating as well. This is just our own little man cave of eating steak and bacon and having a nice Sunday afternoon going carnivore, so to speak. So I just want to throw that out there. No harm towards anybody. It's just the way the group was formed, and we found it to be pretty darn successful.
Absolutely. So I guess the next thing that I would like to dig into is kind of the mission statement that we've come up with the podcast. It mirrors really the mission statement that we have for the group. But Alberto, would you read that off?
Mission statement we have is to inform, educate, entertain, and support men looking to be healthy in all aspects of life. And I've said it in the past, and I'll continue to say it. You've heard me preach it over and over in the club. Weight loss should be a side effect of being a healthy person. I mean, everybody wants to lose weight. That's the name of the game. That's never going to change. I get that, but I just like to push the idea that when you become the healthiest version of yourself, weight loss is an inevitable side effect.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. I'm glad that I lost the weight that I did, but the thing that drew me to the ketogenic diet originally, really, it was like, okay, I can lose some weight. That's cool. But this just makes sense as far as like the way that people ate for thousands of years. Why did we change this? Why am I eating all this processed crap that's out there? And it made me think, it made me wonder, okay, if my body was really designed to eat this stuff, wouldn't it do okay? Wouldn't I not be pre-diabetic? Wouldn't I not, wouldn't I find balance in my life? And the truth was, I didn't have balance. I was low testosterone. I was 35 at the time, and so coming right up on 35. I don't remember which. I think it was after. But I was coming to that point where I'm going, okay, I'm starting to actually get maybe kind of a little bit old, and I need to maybe start taking care of myself so that I actually last until like 70. And so I had tried different things, but this just seemed so simple and so clear cut, and it wasn't math as much. Yes, I had to learn how to do macros, but it wasn't math to figure out the Weight Watcher system. It was math to, okay, just count this up. This is how much you get for the day, and this is why. This science actually made sense to me, and I was like, okay, I can get on board with this. And so the goal for me was to be healthy, to have longevity. And then I learned about the mental clarity and the fact that right now, whenever I'm really well into a state of ketosis, I'm no longer feeling the major effects of ADD that I felt the majority of my life. I have clarity of thought, and I can actually sometimes focus on one thing at a time. And I just have a lot more control, a lot more energy than I ever had before. And so the weight was secondary. I lost the 40 pounds really quick, and that was nice. That was life changing. But that wasn't the real thing that I gained from it. So I guess that probably sums up my most important thing that I learned about keto was that it the was the way for me to find stability, to find homeostasis with my body, and find longevity and health. So Jim, what would you say like the most important item or thing was that you learned when coming to keto?
I think that starting out was that so many people were so concerned about being perfect on it that the idea of macros and how many carbs to eat, how much protein, how much fat, all of these different things, and you find out that the pork rinds that you bought at the grocery store have X amount of sugar in them that you didn't realize. And so all of a sudden you're like, well, heck with it. I'm just going to go get a gallon of ice cream and throw it all away because I didn't make it. No, that is not how this has to be. You can go into this easy, eyes open, adjusting, learning, tweaking, and everything. We live in this wonderful world of technology where there are food trackers on your phones and your tablets and your computers and all these different ways of getting those numbers and fine tuning. Plus, we've all come together because of social media and Facebook. There are so many opportunities out there to learn ways of eating that fall into the ketogenic lifestyle. So you don't have to recreate a wheel every day. You can do food prep very easily on a Sunday afternoon and good for lunch for the entire work week. So I think that the biggest thing is it's not that hard. You don't have to overthink it that much. even if you're going out to dinner or something and you don't know what to eat at a certain restaurant, you can find resources that say, oh, well, try this, or ask for this on the side rather than on it, and you drop 16 carbs or 20 grams of sugar, whatever the case may be. Everything is different, but just really easing into it and finding your path, and then as your momentum grows on this way of eating, you'll also start being able to do more with your knowledge about eating this way, and you can find alternatives to different things that you didn't think you could ever have again.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that was probably the thing that was the most deterrent for me when I tried to do the Weight Watchers online thing. Is I didn't have any clue how to make perfect. Like I didn't have any idea, and so I just gave up. I don't think I even made 2 or 3 days on that thing. I literally just gave up because I'm like, I can't do it. It doesn't make sense,
Hmm.
and I can't even. But I was also trying to think, okay, well, I've got to do this perfect. And well, I didn't know what perfect was. That wasn't clear enough for me. Alberto, how about you? What are you
For me, like we say, with the simplicity, what you got going, you get overwhelmed when we're in this world of supplements and protein shakes and vitamins and fat burners and vitamin packs and all this other stuff that you and I took it all. Like I'm guilty of it. I took it all. I had 3 different tubs of protein when I started keto because that's what I thought I needed, and I couldn't stop gaining weight. I couldn't stop being achy. I couldn't stop being miserable. And sure enough, you just kind of stick to the simple part. For me, it was as simple as, all right, here's step one: cook a piece of protein, find something green to go with it. There's your meal. And so for a couple weeks, I did just that. And then as you keep researching and poking along, and then more things start to come, and before you know it, it's just second nature. Throw a steak on the grill while that's cooking, heat up these mushrooms and the spinach, and got yourself a really good meal that had a total of 3 ingredients in it, as opposed to the stuff I was shoving in my face prior to that.
what's that thing that you tell people all the time in the comments? Is it lift and eat steak?
Steaks over shakes every
Steaks
day.
over shakes. That's it.
Steaks over shakes. And
Heck,
look,
there-
and I am well aware that people have their protein shakes, and there is a place for them, and you can use them. But when I started keto, my whole thing was to do it for as little money as humanly possible, and to completely cut out every supplement that I had bought in my previous life. Like I was like, I got to be able to. If I'm going to do this, I've got to be able to do this 100% supplement free, because that's how sustainable I wanted this to be. I don't got to worry about when I'm down to my last third of protein powder that, oh, no, I got to run out and get, no, here, I got to get more eggs. That's my biggest problem. I got a freezer full of steak. I'm not going to run out of that for a while.
And you bring up a good point also, that this is not a expensive way of eating either. I mean, you can get ground beef, steak, eggs, all that stuff. You can get it at your regular grocery store and do just fine.
Yeah, and it was fun. We had just had this conversation, and it was one of the comments in the group. And I said, and there's a beautiful ebb and a flow, because like you first get on keto and you're just like, wow, I'm saving so much money. And then you start researching and you start making all these fancy desserts and fancy cakes. And next thing you know, your grocery bill goes through the roof because you're into all these elaborate recipes and you're like a miniature master chef. And then you get to this point where you kind of get sick of that, and then you end up going right back down to the basics, and you find yourself going back to what you started at, which is pretty much just a hunk of meat and some greens. And then lo and behold, keto is affordable again.
yeah, totally. Let's each one of us go through a couple. Let's say 2 or 3 things that you wish every man, whether they are on the ketogenic diet currently or not, knew about what keto could do for them. So, Alberto, do you want to start that out?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I think we can all agree and we can all relate to aches and pains. Like I said, I was a master technician, automotive painter by trade. Part of the reason I got out of automotive painting is because it was wreaking havoc on my knees and my back. And I was early 30s, 31, 32 years old. And I knew at that time, like, I know of people that are lifelong painters, and I knew I wasn't one of them. I wasn't going to be able to hang. The irony of that is all of those ailments are now gone because of keto, but there's no going back. I'm happy where I'm at. So yeah, the reduction of inflammation, the aches and pains that were part of everyday life, the aches and pains that there are guys out there that take aspirin, that take Advil, or take some kind of medication for them just to get out of bed and get through the day is not necessary. They just, all this stuff just seems to tend to go away in time if you stick with it long enough. It's a beautiful thing. And the other thing I would say that how I'm trying to word this right to try to get my point off as quickly as possible, but the goal should not be ketosis. It should be fat adaptation. And fat adaptation gets better and it evolves. And I like to use a similar description, saying like, I used to be into martial arts when I was in my early 20s. When you achieve a black belt, you're not done with Taekwondo. You technically just started. Like, your journey has just begun. And fat adaptation kind of follows that same thing. Like, just because you become fat adapted, that doesn't mean you're done with keto. Like, hey, I made it. Now what? Oh, that is an evolving process that never stops. Like, personally, I would say over the course of the last 3 weeks or month, like, I'm finding it very hard to tolerate any artificial sweeteners. And that is brand new to me. That I never had that problem before. Occasionally I'd sip on a Coke Zero when I had the urge for one and just keep on rocking with my day. Now it's disaster pants. They put it bluntly. And that's a new one. And maybe it's a little phase I'm going through. Maybe it's because I haven't had them in a while. But I've never had this kind of adverse reaction to that kind of thing. And maybe this is just the next evolution of me, just how my body reacts and how I gotta keep things true in order for me to stay healthy and thrive.
Yeah, good. Jim, how about you?
I think that I would say one of the big things is, because Alberto's covered the diet side of things, is that the idea that men don't care about their physical appearance is actually very much not the case. Um, you know, as we get older, the assumption is you're going to get the paunch and all this other stuff that we kind of just expect for men in their middle age and getting older and everything. And it doesn't have to be that the case at all. What I've seen from some of the private conversations I've had with members of the Keto Mans Club and some of the posts in the club have been from guys who were embarrassed to go swimming with their kids on vacation, or to take that 10th, 25th, whatever anniversary cruise with their wife, and just not feeling like they look the part, so to speak. And I've seen those changes as guys have lost weight, become healthier in so many different ways, where they're like, proud of the fact that they went out and bought a new suit and looking good and everything. And who knew that this could come from eating bacon and steak and salad and all these other things that fall in that way of eating. So I think the psychological benefits of finding this way that doesn't feel like a diet, that doesn't require you to necessarily have to go buy protein shakes and things like that, and suddenly you've dropped 1, 2, 4 belt notches. You're wearing stuff that you haven't worn in 5 or 7 years. You're getting people that you haven't seen for a while who do a double take when you pass them in the street, and like, wow, I wouldn't have known you. You look 10 years younger. Those are the things that come from this change, come from this way of eating, that are so valuable for a person's mental health. Um, and I say all of this with the caveat of, I judge people by how they treat the server and whether they kick a dog, kind of thing. I don't care if you're tall, short, skinny, fat, whatever the case may be. So I don't say any of this to be discouraging for people who are just starting on this journey or are struggling with this journey. All of that, there's so many parts that play into this, but I hope that, and we've seen this in the Keto Mans Club on Facebook, we've seen where guys have found a renewed sense of self for feeling better and looking better. And what isn't great about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm all for everyone. I mean, I want everyone to succeed so bad. I mean, even in my personal life with friends, people that start businesses, I just want everyone to be successful. And as far as the Keto Mans Club goes, nothing makes me happier than when a dude will post a picture of himself and be like, I dug this shirt out from 7 years ago, and I just kind of kept it because it was my favorite shirt. I knew I was never going to wear it again, and there they are. Most of the time, not only are they wearing it, they're wearing it well, and it fits them better than it fit them when they originally bought it. And
Either
the
that
little
or
things
it's
like
actually
that,
large on them.
exactly. And it's those little things. Like I'm like, that's what it's about, right there. That's what it's about. I kept like my quote unquote skinny pants and my quote unquote skinny shirt. I got rid of everything else I was never going to fit in. I'm like, I'm keeping this one shirt and I'm keeping this one pair of pants, and I still got them, and I'll put them out once in a while, and I just kind of sit there and just nod and like, all right, we made it. We're here.
Well, you're also the guy, let's just be honest, who probably has the most shirtless pics in the entire group as well. And so, that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah. I managed to wear a shirt this entire time, if you can believe
that. Yeah, it's
and the world.
Go ahead, Jim.
No. It was just going to be a stupid joke. I'm not even going down that
road. Yeah, it's a good thing, at least for now, that this isn't a video podcast. But yeah, in the future, and especially when it gets into summer and that shed of yours, Alberto, is hot. Yeah, you might be shirtless in some of these. I have a feeling.
Yes, and by shed, let me just clarify. The house I bought came with a 12 by 20 insulated shed with electricity run to it. It's not like I'm sitting in a metal garden shed. And it is actually the only thing that's stopping it from being an art studio is I have yet to do any art out of it. But I have a motorcycle helmet here that I'm about to start working on. I have panels that I'm working on. It will be my little automotive art studio, another one of my passions. Believe it or not, I don't live for working out. I actually live for painting cars. And working out has just been a way for me to relieve stress and not want to punch people in the face the other 12 hours of the day I'm in public.
Yep. Pretty much. Okay.
Oh gosh, that's awesome.
So let's dig a little bit more into each of us, just as something fun and something to think about. And the answer to this cannot be steak. Okay, so what is your favorite meal outside of steak?
I can nail this one, no problem, because I make it. I mean, you could probably almost guess. I'd have to go with carnitas. I made it a couple of times, and I posted the pictures of it, and it's not steak, but it is a very close second.
Okay, so break it down for those that don't know what that is. What go ahead and break that down real quick.
All right. Well, let me just start off by saying every good recipe should start with a 10-pound pork butt and 6 pounds of lard. And then
is that on a bumper sticker anywhere that we can,
put? That's gonna. It should be on a shirt right next to Steaks Over Shakes. But it's traditional Mexican. If it takes a few hours to make, it's traditional Mexican food. It's essentially slow fried pork in a copper pot. Ideally, you can really do it in anything. And I mean, there's only a handful of ingredients. There's like 5 ingredients in it. You just add it in intervals, and you just keep stirring this thing. And about 3 hours later, I guess you could compare it to like when you deep fry a turkey. Like you think about deep frying a turkey, and the first time you hear that, you're like, that sounds terrible. Like, well, that's going to be the greasiest, nastiest mess I've ever experienced. But then you try a deep fried turkey, and you realize it's delicious. This kind of follows the same suit, because I mean you're frying it in lard for a total of probably 3.5 hours, and it turns the pork this like buttery, soft, velvety deliciousness that it's just, you just got to try it. Come over, I'll make it for you guys. It's worth it.
I will take you up on that. I'm right down the road.
I will have to get a plane ticket, but I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, search my name in the group, Alberto, Elberto, and that's a painfully boring story as to how that came up, but I'll break it down for you guys sometime. And then carnitas, Carnitas. I've made it a handful of times. A ton of pictures on there, probably a breakdown of how I did it. But yeah, it's worth it. The only thing that's missing is the part that you can't eat, which is the corn tortilla. But luckily, my local grocery store has jicama tortillas, which is very thinly sliced jicama, which is 100% keto. And now, another thing, as you guys are probably all aware by now, there are certain things that when you go keto that you're never going to find a replacement for. But the key is you're never going to replace it, but you're going to find something else that fits the bill. Like, this is definitely not a corn tortilla, but it fits the bill quite nice. And you got so many other complex flavors going on that is the least of your concerns in this recipe.
Yeah, the pictures just make my mouth water every time that you make it. So yeah, totally agree. Jim, how about you?
Well, since I'm in Indiana, we get all 4 seasons. I don't think you guys get as much of that down in Texas. So, um, as we're recording this, we're coming out of winter into spring, and one of the winter favorites for me was what they call Mississippi roast, Mississippi pot roast. So you get about a 2 to 3 pound. You could do like a pork shoulder. You can do a roast. Whatever kind of meat you want, really. Throw it in a slow cooker with a stick of butter, a bunch of those pepperoncini peppers. You can do a package of au jus gravy mix, and then you can do a packet of ranch seasoning as well. You can kind of play around with this, and you can search online for different options with that, depending on how you want your seasoning to be, so to speak. But throw that in a slow cooker for about 8 hours on low. Throw some juice on it a couple times during that as well, and it just falls apart and so tender and juicy and everything. And it's just happiness in a bowl when you're done. And great on a cold winter's day. Um, Definitely good for leftovers for a couple of days as well. The other thing that I have started really enjoying is crack slaw. And again, there are all different kinds of variations of this, but I buy a bag of coleslaw mix at the grocery store, and it's usually a pound is less than $2 for that. You can do sausage, you can do ground beef, you can do different things, but you fry up the meat, throw in the coleslaw, add a little bit of soy sauce, some ginger, some salt and pepper, again, seasoning to taste or whatever, and that stuff is it's kind of like an unwrapped spring
Mhm.
roll, and
Nice.
it fits the bill so well because you get the green stuff, you get the protein from the meat and everything. Usually last 2 or 3 days in the fridge, so it's not something that can stick around for all week, but definitely something for variation for 2 or 3 days for
Very
sure.
cool. So I'm rather than having a full recipe, I'm going to go with what I actually made earlier today. And part of this is that my wife does most of the cooking in the house, and that's largely because she's almost a gourmet chef. Like she's just that good. And so I am blessed. She does most of our meal prep for us, and so I help a little. I do the sous chef thing, but I can't call that stuff mine. But the thing that I like to make that's a fully keto thing is a pork belly, and I just basically slice the fat end of it nice and deep, do it crosswise, and do a kind of crisscross pattern. Throw it salt, pepper, throw it in the oven, roast it at about 325 today for about 3 hours. And when that's done, you dig in. And I ate half of it. I wanted to eat all of it today, I'm like, but then I won't have any tomorrow. So, so
Right.
yeah. So that's going to be my favorite keto meal that's not steak is pork belly, made at home, simple, plain. My wife will do it all deep fried and marinated and all that stuff. I don't do any of that stuff. I keep it simple, as best I can, because that's the level of gourmet that I'm capable of. Okay, so let's go ahead and start wrapping things up. We're starting to come up on time, but I'd like to go around real quickly to each of us and kind of get your ideas, your hopes, your plans for the future of this podcast, where it's going to go, what type of impact it's going to have. So, Jim, why don't you start off with that?
Well, I think if you've made it through this long, you obviously get a good vibe of what we are as individuals and as a group. So there's good information that we can help share with our podcast listeners. There's humor in there for sure. We want everybody to be successful, as Alberto said a little bit ago. This isn't about us. Um, Patting our backs for anything. We're simply trying to take what we have learned and shared in the group in our own individual research on the ketogenic way of eating and taking it to the next level. There is something pretty unique about our group, not just in the core of admins and moderators for the Facebook group, but the thousands of guys that are in there. And we want to hear from you. We want to get your feedback on the podcast as you listen and tune in, and let us know what you're struggling with, what we can do to help you. But I really just think, jumping in, asking questions, learning about this and everything, you're going to find some benefit for sure. And if you don't, well, you're going to hear about a guy in Indiana that talks about his 3 Labradors periodically. You're going to talk to a guy in Texas who has a gourmet wife or gourmet chef for a wife. And then you're going to have a guy who has defeated every ache and pain and does all this beautiful artwork on vehicles and everything. And we're all pretty happy guys. So what's wrong with listening to that for an hour or so?
I don't think anything. Yeah, I don't think
Touche.
anything. Alberto, how about you? What are you most excited for as we continue with building these podcasts and building this thing that we're getting started?
Just honestly, we had briefly mentioned it before. Is being able to have a podcast, but that also is so interwebbed with a Facebook page and with all the members that are in that Facebook page and their stories. And maybe at some point in time we can toss around the idea of getting some of our members on and talk to them and get to know their struggles and it just kind of grow our little inner community just to make it bigger and stronger. And I'll go ahead and say right now, I am a self-proclaimed butter chugging fat fiend, which is a controversial topic in the world of keto. But I do not want to limit this podcast just to the way I do things for my personal reasons. If someone found a different approach to it that's working for them and they have a really good reason as to why, that person's little story might help some other person who's kind of afraid to put their question out there in the group, and maybe listening to this podcast will spark a little idea and they'll do their own little experimenting, and 6 months later, here's his first post. I heard this on the podcast and it worked for me, and here's that shirt I bought 7 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree with that more, Alberto. I think it's important to know that while we're ketogenic, we're not of any specific camp. We all have our camps that we came from, that in the school of thought that maybe we started from, but we've all adapted and found what worked for ourselves. And the people that we have on, whether they be a quote unquote professional, whether they be a member from the group, whoever that may be, they found the version of keto that works for them, and there's a basis there to it, but there's that basis is just the common thread that binds us all together. We all have to find what works for us individually, because none of us are exactly the same. I am not the one like Alberto that has this amazing metabolism at this point because he's worked his tail off, and he can't gain weight at this point unless he really really tries. To lift heavy and eat a whole bunch of meat. I'm the other way around. I at this particular point in time, I can still put weight back on, and so I'm at a different point in my journey than these two guys, and I'm excited. And to answer my question was, I'm excited to get to kind of record about some of my journey and to talk with people about theirs. And that is part of we mentioned it, but I'll reiterate again. If you have a story that you might want to tell, reach out to one of us, and we would love to talk to you a little bit and see if there's a way that we could fit you in on the schedule or something, because we aren't just wanting to talk to the, again, quote unquote professionals. While we'll have them on, we also want to hear real stories from real people, because that's important. Um, all of us in this community, on the Facebook group, or just in the world in general, we're all individuals. We're all real people, and we need to know that other real people just like us can do it, can find balance, can find optimal health. And so that's what I'm excited for. That's what I'm looking forward to in the plans to the future. So, any final notes, gents? Is there any other things that we can think of before we completely wrap things up?
I think we're in it for the long haul. I think you're going to hear a lot of great stuff. Our listeners are really going to get some benefit out of every podcast. So please, of course, subscribe, like, follow, all of that good stuff. Request to join our Facebook group. You can go to theketomansclub.com. That'll redirect you to the Facebook page. And there's a lot of things coming up that we're very excited for. And a special shout out to you, Chris, who is manning mission control there and making all of this happen and everything. I am very excited for this to continue on and grow and help a lot of people out there.
Absolutely. Parting shot, Alberto?
Just looking forward to what this is going to bring. I'm excited to kind of take our little virtual landscape to the next level. Yeah, that's really about it, man. I'm just looking forward to how this is all going to work out and how we're going to be able to help people.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, and everybody else out there listening, thanks for tuning in. We will see you again next week.
Thank you for joining us for the Keto Mans Club Podcast. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Would you help us spread the word about the Keto Mans Club by sharing with your friends and family? We're available on all podcast platforms, so just search for Keto Mans Club and you'll find us. If you would like to connect with us, you can do so a number of ways. Our web address leads to our Facebook group, theketomansclub.com. That's TheKetoMansClub.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Keto Mans Club Podcast. Lastly, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out via email to KetoMansClubPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to hanging out with you again next week.